What's up guys, and welcome back to round number 6 of my 2019 modded career mode here for F1 2018. I hope you all had a great Christmas, taking a few days off, of course, as you can imagine, with the festive period. But we are back here, as I said, for round number 6. Do leave a like if you're enjoying this series. I've really enjoyed it so far, and it seems as if you guys have too. So if we can hit 150 likes on this video, that would be great. But now getting into Monaco, we'll take a look at what upgrades we've got. So we've got 3 on the car for this race, one of which being an engine upgrade to the engine recovery system. Probably won't benefit us too much around this circuit, to be honest, but still nice to have. Also got a little bit more rear downforce in the aerodynamics department, which should help us. And we also have a control electronics upgrade in the durability department. That has taken us further clear of Haas in 4th position in the performance chart. We're slowly creeping up on those top 3, and hopefully come the end of the season we will be in the mix. Now in terms of the engine, I've actually decided to take an old internal combustion engine for this race, because of course we've got a few races including Canada and France coming up which have long straights, and we'll want to save our sort of newer engines for that. So we fitted an older engine. Of course, we'll have less power output from that, but if you're going to choose any track to do that at, it would be Monaco. Now, rather unusually, we're going to take a quick look at what happened in qualifying, because, of course, Monaco is the circuit where qualifying is the most important. So you can see here, we are actually at the end of the session. This is our final lap, and we're currently sat in P11 as we come through the tunnel and towards the Nouvelle chicane. There was an almighty pile up, and I thought you guys would probably like to see exactly what happened. So there's literally about 8 cars that must have collided with each other, and I still have no idea what happened, because this is all I could capture on the replay. Just cars coming through the chicane and just colliding with each other. It was just utter carnage, and I was quite disappointed because I was looking to improve my lap time. I actually lost a lot of time at the Nouvelle chicane on my very first lap. So I thought, you know what, there's probably a good half a second in this. Because that's, I believe, yeah, I lost half a second on my quickest lap compared to my previous one. So I was pretty disappointed coming back into the pit lane. But then I took a look at exactly what had happened. 2 cars had got disqualified, which put us up to P9. And then most cars in front of us had penalties. So I was thinking we are properly in the money for this Grand Prix. Our teammate Daniel Ricciardo will be starting in a net P2. But there you can see what the penalties were all about. So I think it was Pierre Gasly or Charles Leclerc that started the whole carnage. It says that Gasly got a penalty for illegal blocking, and then the rest of them just sort of got penalties for collisions because they couldn't see what was happening. But what that means for the grid for the Monaco Grand Prix is we have Max Verstappen on pole ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. So the old Red Bull teammates are 1 and 2. And a bit of a bizarre qualifying, I think it's fair to say. Ricciardo 1.2 seconds behind Max Verstappen, with Bottas in 3rd and Lewis Hamilton, who took a grid penalty, a 3-place penalty, in P4. Carlos Sainz will be starting in 5th, ahead of ourselves. And we've somehow managed to put ourselves on the 3rd row, ahead of Sebastian Vettel, with Sainz's teammate Lando Norris in 8th, and Kevin Magnussen and Kimi Raikkonen sort of finishing off the top 10. Then we've got Pierre Gasly in 11th, ahead of Perez, Albon and Roman Grosjean, who's also got a penalty. Kvyat and Russell pretty much in their normal positions in 15th and 16th, ahead of Kubica and Charles Leclerc, who'll be starting in P18, 27 seconds off the pace. Probably not Charles' best qualifying. And then Giovinazzi and Stroll round out the grid for what was definitely the most bizarre qualifying session of the season. Now then, we skip on to the formation lap before the start of this Monaco Grand Prix. And think of this as a little bit of a Christmas special on the channel. Of course, we haven't had a video since Christmas, so hopefully you all enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments if you got any presents that were F1 related. Maybe you got F1 2018 for Christmas, so do let me know down below. Hopefully you had a good time whatever you were doing, and hopefully you guys can enjoy what promises to be a crazy Monaco Grand Prix, because we go now to the 5 red lights starting in P6 here for round 6, and away we go here in Monaco. It's a good start from Carlos Carlos Sainz. Not a terrible one from ourselves, and it looks as if we're just about going to cover off Sebastian Vettel into turn 1. Yes, indeed, we do keep that P6 as we come up the hill with a brilliant battle between the two Mercedes drivers for P3. Hamilton and Bottas going at it as we come into the Casino Square. It looks as if Bottas is just going to go down the inside of Lewis Hamilton as now we come towards Mirabeau at the end of Sector 1. We are right on the gearbox of Carlos Sainz as we come into the slowest corner on the F1 calendar at the hotel hairpin. And now coming down the hill towards the seafront, the Mediterranean Sea, through Portier and through the tunnel as we lose quite a bit of ground there to Carlos Sainz. We're not going to be challenging him through the tunnel or at the Nouvelle Chicane now as we brake as well as we can, trying and sort of aim for that inside wall as we got a little bit precarious there. But we're going to take a look at a replay of the start right at the front. And it was a pretty routine one from the pole sitter, Max Verstappen. Wasn't challenged by our teammate Daniel Ricciardo. And the battle was really going on between Hamilton and Bottas. So we're on board with Bottas here, who started in P4. And up until he got into turn 4, was still in that position. But he got past Lewis Hamilton just before the end of Sector 1. The very feisty bit of driving from the two of the Mercedes boys. But no contact between the two of them. And, of course, no harm was done. So I'm sure that Toto Wolff won't be too disappointed in that. And he'll be wanting his drivers to progress up the field because that man, Max Verstappen, now he's got clear road ahead of him. And he's got my teammate in P2, should theoretically be able to pull a little bit of a gap. So he was looking good in qualifying. But, of course, the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton, I believe, set the quickest time. And now we go on to one of the other technically front-running cars, or a car that should be a front-runner, and that is the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel. He is going for a move on ourselves by the looks of it on lap 4 as we lock up into the Nouvelle Chicane. We're still in P6 in this Grand Prix, but if we carry on like that, it's not going to be for long. It looks as if our tyres, of course we're on the Hypersoft tyres, aren't lasting brilliantly at the moment, and sure enough, come lap 5, just one lap later, we have got a real trolley train forming behind us. We must have about half the field. I believe behind us we've got P7 all the way down to P14 within what must be about 3 or 4 seconds of each other. So we're not having the greatest of times at the moment on lap 5. Considering that we were looking at alright in qualifying, we weren't looking great, but we were looking okay. It looks as if we have literally zero pace in this race. So ahead of us in P5, we have got Carlos Sainz, who's really starting to pull a bit of a gap. Then ahead of him, you've got Lewis Hamilton, who is still in pursuit of his teammate. The two of them just trying to close in on my teammate Daniel Ricciardo here on lap 6. But Ricciardo's still holding firm. He's still in P2 for what's looking like a pretty solid drive, but he's not coming close to Max Verstappen. That man looking nailed on for the 25 points if it stays as it is. But of course, this is Monaco. We've still got 33 laps to go in this race, so you really don't know what is going to happen. And hopefully for ourselves, we know what's going to happen, and that is that man, Sebastian Vettel, is going to stay behind us. All we've got to do is put our car in at the right position, as once again we come down to the Nouvelle Chicane. It looks as if that's really a problem of ours, that getting the good exit of Portier and towards the Nouvelle Chicane. But as we now switch to this beautiful camera angle, the overhead view coming through this final sector and towards the swimming pool section of the track at Monaco, you really get an idea of who is quick in which sections of this track. So as we come now into Anthony knows well, the man that was behind us, Sebastian Vettel. Couldn't even think who it was then. Vettel is in the pit, basically, at the end of lap 6, which has released us a tiny little bit, but it probably just means that he's going to jump us in at the pit phase. Now, our aim for this race is to do a one-stopper. So, go on these Hypersoft tyres for as long as possible, and then switch to the hardest compound, which is the Super Soft, which really does make no sense. But, yeah. We'll try and go for the one-stopper. I believe a lot of drivers will be going for the two-stopper today. So it's going to be an interesting one. We've got Kevin Magnussen behind us, who is starting on the ultra-soft tyres. So he'll be able to run a little bit longer into this race. Meanwhile, our teammate is switching onto the ultra-soft tyres from the Hypersofts at the end of lap 7. It's going to be interesting to see where he emerges. Is he going to be able to get ahead of Sebastian Vettel, you'd imagine so. And it looks as if actually he's going to get ahead of ourselves as Lewis Hamilton has also pitted. So we are going to just about get ahead of the Mercedes man. And hopefully we've got a little bit of a buffer now for our teammate. So we're really the cork in the bottle at this stage, but we run very, very wide there. And we made a little bit of contact with Lewis Hamilton, who has far superior grip on his set of tyres. So unfortunately, we couldn't really do our teammate that much of a favour, but we've held Hamilton up a little bit. I can feel a tiny bit good about myself. But in all honesty, it was a pretty poor attempt at keeping that Mercedes man behind us. In all honesty, we know that we're not really battling him, and probably won't be for the rest of the race. But meanwhile, on lap 10 now, we have got going down the inside of us Kevin Magnussen. Once again, our exit off Portier just before the tunnel is so poor as Magnussen there locks up. So the Haas man, it looks as if his tyres are starting to wear maybe a little bit, and he is really trying to push to get ahead of us. And just look, you saw momentarily the tyre wear there on our Hypersoft tyres. It's over 65% on the front left tyre. I believe it's 66%. So these are absolutely shot. We've done a terrible job of tyre management. And unfortunately, we're going to have to come into the pit lane on lap 10. Which means that we're going to now go onto the super soft tyres. And, well, we're going to have to do 29 laps on there. And there you can see 67% wear on the front left tyre. No wonder it was terrible. And, of course, we've not got the greatest engine in the back of our car, as we mentioned earlier. So we didn't have good exit off corners, and our engine didn't help us along the way either. So we've come out of the pits after what should be our one and only stop of the afternoon. And we are ahead of a Red Bull driver, that is Pierre Gasly. And for some reason, he's gone back onto the Hypersoft tyres. So a bit of a strange decision from him. But he is the only man that's actually behind us at the moment. We're in P19. We've not had the greatest of races so far. It's going to be difficult, but with this one stopper, I'm hoping that we can really put ourselves in the mix of at least a half-decent points finish. Now, of course, we were in P6. I doubt that's going to last because everyone that's pitting at different times to us is just going to be so much faster. But on lap 13, we've closed up to the back of Lance Stroll. Now, I'm not really sure who in this train has pitted and who hasn't. All I do know is there is a driver at the front of this train who is really holding everybody up. There must be about 8 or 10 drivers in this train, and I think it is a Williams at the front of it. So it's given us a little bit of a way back in to this race as we now once again go up towards Massenet and Casino Square. And yes, sure enough, it is the Williams of Robert Kubica at the front of this train as we now go dying down the inside of Lance Stroll into Mirabeau and up into P18, opportunistic, and we then go down the inside of Lando Norris. We really didn't expect the McLaren man to be breaking that early for the hairpin, but well, we sort of got caught out a little bit and managed to improvise and turn it into an overtake. So within 2 corners, we're up into P17. This isn't looking as terrible anymore, and well, before we know it, we've got Sebastian Vettel in front of us, so he did jump us in the pit phase. I know, rather unsurprising, but still. We're going to try and get ahead of the Ferrari man, and I might as well be joking, because let's be honest, we're probably never going to do it, especially with the state that our car is in a straight line. And yes, sure enough, 1 lap later, we've got Lando Norris trying to come back at us, and he cuts the track and gets ahead of us. Quite how that's allowed, I don't know, but you know what, we were quite aggressive with Norris, so I'm not going to complain at him too much for being aggressive with us. But still, I think it's clear to see that he definitely cut the track there, and he didn't get any sort of penalty for it, or didn't, have to give the position back. So I was a little bit annoyed about that, but still, what can we do? We're now back behind Lando Norris, and we're going to have to chase after him with a car that looks very, very incapable of overtaking anything when we're not in severe traffic. But yeah, we'll take a look at a replay of exactly what happened with that Norris incident in a minute. And yes, here we go. So we come now towards the Nouvelle chicane. We give Norris, we don't give him a whole deal of room, but I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. Should I have given Norris more room? Was he entitled to go for that move? I'll see what you guys say down below. I'll reserve my opinions until I read the comments. But now back on board with ourselves on lap 17. We're now going to go for another move down the inside of Norris at Mirabeau. And it looks as if that was a little bit audacious as we go down the inside of him at the hairpin. And for the second time, we've overtaken Lando Norris at the hairpin. And that was the perfect time because we've never got a safety car deployed. So that is an interesting one. Now, I'm not 100% sure what exactly causes safety car because there was no DNFs. I looked on the race director, nothing came up. I looked on the replays, nothing on there either. So it was a bit of a peculiar one. All be told, but one good thing is it's really brought us into the mix, and we don't need to pit again in this Grand Prix. So a bunch of cars have come into the pit lane, which releases us up into P12. There was really no point in us pitting at this stage of the Grand Prix because we didn't have any more sets of the super soft tyres to go on to. So it would have been a bit of a wasted pit stop. But behind the safety car, that man, our teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, is leading ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Now, take these with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because I believe a lot of drivers have still got pit stops to make in this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen is down in P4, I believe, behind Charles Leclerc, who has been lapped. So this is all a bit mad at the moment. We've got Kimi Raikkonen right in the mix as well, as is Sergio Perez, as he just seems to be in this modded career mode. But yeah, like I say, take these with a little bit of a pinch of salt at the moment. But we have got, leading the Grand Prix, our teammate ahead of the two Mercedes drivers and Max Verstappen. So I wouldn't be too surprised if it ended like that. But who knows? Literally, as I said, I have no idea. So we've got Charles Leclerc ahead of us. So it must have been actually Sebastian Vettel maybe that was the lapped car. Either way, pretty mad as we go down the inside of Charles Leclerc and manage to get up into P11. But looks like Leclerc is going to go back round the outside of us into turn 1. And the Ferrari man is going to try and stick it out. But no, he just can't quite do it as we go up Casino Square. Towards Casino Square. And he does, in fact, manage to get the position on us. That superior engine power in the back of his Ferrari, probably helping him along the way. So yeah, his teammate Sebastian Vettel, who made a pit stop under the safety car, has actually ended up being lapped. So it was a poor decision from him actually pitting when he did. And looks like he's going to be scoring no points this afternoon. But, well, ourselves, we're looking okay. We're in P12. And hopefully we'll have a few more cars pitting before the Grand Prix is up. But we've got George Russell now being lapped in the Williams car. We're just trying to look for a way past as we go towards the Nouvelle chicane. He's completely blocked us off as he locked up there, and we're just looking for a way past him. He's completely blocked us for about, well, half a sector. And look at how much time we've lost. We've lost 2 seconds to Charles Leclerc in at sector 2. And that is some questionable driving from the back markers. I understand that it's difficult to get out of the way at Monaco, but I don't particularly think I did too much wrong in that instant. Again, we'll take a look at a replay from George Russell's point of view in a minute, just to see exactly what happened. But now we have got Charles Leclerc in the pits, so we are up into P11. Not quite sure what Ferrari are doing this afternoon, but there we go. Anyway, he lets Charles Leclerc pass, does George Russell, and then just completely blocks us off. So quite what Williams have against us, I don't know. And then he could just, you know, brake checks us and doesn't let us pass at all until we've exited the Nouvelle chicane. By which time we've got Carlos Sainz on our tail, and then he takes out one of the Force Indias. So that must be Lance Stroll that he's just gone into. Unlucky, Lance. Unlucky, mate. But anyway, we are back. Sorry, it was Lando Norris that was, of course, behind us because Sainz is ahead of us. And this is just such a confusing Grand Prix. I have no idea what's going on at the moment. As our teammate has pitted, as has Lewis Hamilton. So all of the front-running guys have pitted for another time, which releases us all the way up into P8. Now, they've got some overtaking to do, providing we don't pit for the rest of the Grand Prix. It'll be interesting to see what the likes of Sainz and Grosjean will do. Of course, they are ahead of us in this Grand Prix, and now on lap 25. We're very much keeping with Sainz and Grosjean. We've had sort of a new lease of life in terms of pace. I don't think that Haas car of Grosjean is going particularly fast at this stage of the Grand Prix. Maybe preserving his tyres for later on could be quite a wise move. And behind us at this stage of the Grand Prix, we have Pierre Gasly. So he's directly behind us. Then we have Lewis Hamilton, who I assume has made his final pit stop of the Grand Prix, followed by Daniel Ricciardo. So Ricciardo has been leapfrogged by the Mercedes man. But still, looking pretty respectable if everybody else has to pit. And he is still ahead of Valtteri Bottas. And then we have got Charles Leclerc behind them. So I'm quite baffled, to be honest, at this stage. We're in P7. And I don't know whether to pit, whether not to pit, whether our tyres are going to hold up. All I know is we've got a lot of fast cars behind us for the final 13 or so laps of this Grand Prix. But we are closing up to another back marker by the looks of it. I think it's Robert Kubica. And this could really put us into play because there's a couple more cars in front of us who look as if they are stuck behind the back marker. So yeah, that may be able to gain us a couple more positions in the long run. Antonio Giovinazzi it is. I'm not sure whether he's the back marker, but we sort of lose it on the exit of Anthony Nogues, and that has let Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton past us as we then try to undercut Lewis Hamilton and get past him, and a safety car is deployed at exactly the same time. Now I thought that we'd, in hindsight, I can see that we've overtaken Hamilton under safety car conditions, but it doesn't tell us to give the position back, so we didn't. Anyway, what caused the safety car? It was that man, Alexander Albon, who just sort of drove into one of the Ferrari cars. Not the smartest thing that he's done, and he took his right front wheel off. So, yeah, not great for Albon or any of the Toro Rosso guys. They'll be kicking themselves. But we've decided to come into the pits for some reason with 12 laps to go because our tyres were pretty knackered. No, they weren't. They were 24%. But for some reason, I thought, you know what? It's at Monaco. Why should I pit? In hindsight, I'm thinking, why have I pitted? I was probably in quite a good position there. And Monaco is literally the most difficult track to overtake on, and you're just relinquishing about 7 or 8 positions. But regardless of that, we did pit, and we're now down in P15 on a set of ultra soft tyres. We're right at the back of the pack, as far as I'm aware, because Sebastian Vettel, who's in P16, has been lapped in this Grand Prix. But let's now take a look at the running order to see exactly what it is. So in P1, we've got Max Verstappen. Then we've got Kevin Magnussen, who is on the one-stop strategy, I believe. And then we have got Kimi Raikkonen ahead of Sergio Perez. So they're looking in pretty good nick. Then we've got Roman Grosjean, who of course we were battling earlier on in the race. Then it's Carlos Sainz, and then it would have been Pierre Gasly followed by ourselves. But instead, it's Pierre Gasly followed by Lewis Hamilton. And you'd imagine those two will pretty much tear a lot of the field apart. Then we've got our teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, who's looking in reasonable shape at the moment. And then you go all the way down to ourselves. And yeah, as I say, it's looking like a quite questionable decision to why the hell we pitted. But nonetheless, we have got 10 laps left in this Grand Prix to see exactly how many cars we can overtake around Monaco. As we go to the restart, we dive straight down the inside. Sorry, it was Daniel Kvyat that was actually out of the race, the man that caused the safety car, because we've just overtaken Alexander Albon for P13. So apologies for that one. And George Russell actually does get out of our way this time into Saint-Devote. Not the greatest exit up the hill towards Massenet-Beaurivage. That's what it's called, isn't it, up the hill? But anyway, we're through Massenet and Casino now and on our way towards Mirabeau. Once again, behind Lando Norris. He's really been our best friend in this race. With 9 laps to go, we're going to go for a third dive down the inside of our fellow Brit. And that time, that was definitely the cleanest move that we've done. That was a very legitimate move down the inside of Norris into P12. So at the moment, I'm thinking, you know what? This is looking like a pretty inspired decision to come into the pits and fit a new set of tyres. But unfortunately, the next driver we've got ahead of ourselves is Charles Leclerc. But directly in front was Antonio Giovinazzi, who we were trying to lap, and we have caught our front wing on him. What a nightmare. What a nightmare. We were way too confident on the brakes, and we've lost our front wing, but it could have been worse. We could be our teammates, because Daniel Ricciardo's car is up in flames. His engine has given up on him at the end of lap 30. Terrible luck for our teammate, who was driving such a good race. And within the space of a few corners, the Renault race in general has just gone up in flames, quite literally. And yeah, now it's looking like Renault we're going to score 0 points after starting in P2 and P6. But it's very much on our own backs now. Hopefully our engine doesn't blow up in the final 9 laps of this race. We've got Robert Kubica, another back marker, in our way. But fortunately, he moves out of our way. And we can now set about pursuing Charles Leclerc. I say pursuing Charles Leclerc. It's probably not going to happen. But yeah, we're on P11 at the moment. We've got Leclerc followed by Bottas. And unfortunately, because they're actually quite good drivers, shockingly, they actually pulled away from us. To be honest, we actually had quite a good race pulling away from Lando Norris. I was pretty happy with our pace. It was just a terrible strategic decision under the safety car from ourselves to come into the pits, which has meant that we're going to be scoring no points this afternoon. But that man, Max Verstappen, is going to take a very deserved 25 points. And his first victory of the season as he comes through the final few corners through Anthony Nose. And it is victory for the Dutchman in Monaco. 25 points go to Red Bull Honda, and 18 points are going to the Rich Energy Haas team and to Kevin Magnussen. A brilliant drive and a brilliant strategy from the Haas team, and also from the Alfa Romeo Sauber team to get 15 points and a podium for Kimi Raikkonen. Then 12 points for Racing Point, and 10 more points for Roman Grosjean and the Haas. Followed by Carlos Sainz, and well, very much a race of what could have been. But we come through the final corner at Anthony Nose to take absolutely no points this afternoon. And well, I think we'll forget about that one and move on to the next round in Canada. Very, very disappointing end to the Grand Prix. And what was actually quite an exciting Monaco Grand Prix. But that is the man that will be taking all the plaudits this afternoon. His name is Max Verstappen. Fair play to him. A very good drive from him and a very good strategy from Red Bull Honda. So yeah, didn't expect to be seeing a podium of Verstappen, Magnussen and Raikkonen. But here we are. And yeah, 2 stops from Verstappen and he still managed to take the victory. Carlos Sainz, shout out to him, 2 stops and managing to get P6 on the same strategy as Hamilton, Bottas, Gasly and Leclerc. So yeah, very good for McLaren, Haas, Racing Point, Sauber. Basically, if you're not a big team, it was a very, very good afternoon. No points though for ourselves or our teammate Daniel Ricciardo. I'm sure Ricciardo could have probably got some points, but there you can see George Russell actually got a 5-second penalty, so I assume that was for him holding us up. And also the same for Sebastian Vettel. So a terrible afternoon for him down in 15th place. The man that is actually still leading the championship. Just had an absolutely honking race. But anyway, we're down into P10. We've been overtaken by Carlos Sainz, quite rightly so, because we were just dismal in that race. And very much outpaced by the McLaren man. But yeah, notably we've got Perez in P5 and Magnussen in P6 in the standings, which is crazy. And Renault, we're down into P6 in the standings, despite having clearly the 4th best car on the grid. Haas and Racing Point both ahead of us. But guys, that was the Monaco Grand Prix. I hope you did enjoy it. It was one of my favourite races of the season, despite being terrible in the driving aspect. But yeah, do tune in to the next round in Canada. I'll be a little bit more consistent with the uploads now Christmas has been and gone. And I'll catch you guys in Montreal for that one. Take care. Bye-bye.